What's going on, Fortnite fam? Welcome to week number 2 of the FNCS Invitational. After a rough qualifier round, 100 players joined FNCS Grand Finalists and content creators alike, where only 300 moved on to week number 2. And now only 80 spots are on the line. Who will make it through to the FNCS Grand Finals? Well, we're here this weekend to find out. Joining us for the show, we've got Shia Wager, we've got Ball TW. How you guys doing?
What up?
What up? This is what we get to do while we wait for the countdown. There you go. Now you got to see some of that. Of course, gentlemen, we're getting ready to kick things off. The battle bus is being prepared. But first, let's go ahead and talk about the show itself, starting with the tournament format. We are in week number 2. Again, only 80 qualifying spots into grand finals after 20 games. That is 10 games across both days. 10 today, 10 tomorrow. Next week, we'll have the reboot round, where players who have not qualified will have a second shot to make it through to grand finals. Only the top 20 in every region will qualify, and that's over 10 games. After 10, the top 20 from every region will move on. And of course, grand finals after that, only one player from every region will stand above the rest as the FNCS Invitational Champion. Here's a look at the schedule. Don't forget, games are going across every single region. We ourselves will be broadcasting Europe with a small break, and then we'll be hitting NA East, where the games will be happening. The players will be playing and building up, trying to achieve the highest peak above the mountain to move on to grand finals. Here is a look at your format. 33 points for that Victory Royale, with points as far out as 75th, with a single point up for grabs. Every elimination is, of course, 4 points. Now, last week, we didn't see those points be as quite as tantalizing as the week before, but maybe now, with the competition being a little bit harder, a little bit higher, it may come into play. Now, of course, we got to talk about what's on the line. We've got qualifying spots, but there is also money on the line for every single region. Now, of course, don't forget, it was week 1, week 2, and grand finals where the pricing breakdown will occur. Here's a look at the breakdown per every single region. I mean, guys, Shy, Bala, it's going to be an absolutely incredible weekend. This is where the tournament turns it up a notch.
Yeah, it turns it up a notch on all avenues. You've said it, Zeke. Pricing, we're talking about the level of competition as well. Down to double digits for qualification. Top 80, basically, what people are fighting for. You know, the atmosphere when you're playing for a top 300 spot, even if it's in cash cups, right? Now it's the FNCS, pretty much the Invitational. Like, it just gets really different. The gameplay changes. You'll see a higher level of both aggressiveness as well as endgame moments.
Yeah, and I think you talked about the eliminations maybe being a little bit more tantalizing this part, but I think that's what's going to basically separate the differences between players, but not make them aggressive. I think this week is where we're going to see the most intense games until we get to grand finals, because top 300 out of where we started, which was 600, where we started, which was open qualifiers, tens of thousands of players. Now we're down to just 300, and top 80 to qualify today, that's actually a hard feat to do this week.
That's right, dudes. Now, of course, we're getting ready. We know what you want, Fortnite fan. We want games. We want them too. But first, what we got to do is touch on the other regions. We've got Shy. We've got Bala here to help us run through things. We're going to start over in OCE. Volk's there in number 1. 36 eliminations, a Victory Royale, and 246 points. That's a substantial lead, Shio.
Man, he's on Raised by Kings, and this man is the king of the region. Volks, 1 Victory Royale, 40 points plus ahead of the competition in first. On all avenues, this man was ahead of people such as Looter, Link, Worthy. I mean, all these names, Jordan, Jolin, these guys are known for being at the top spots, but this man is the king of the crop all the way forward.
And I'm not seeing Repulse God, who was first last week after both days, and because he's not there, he might be missing out on a first place in the week that might be more important than week 1 in terms of prizing. But you look at the rest of this, there's even more people here. Radius, Jinx, who's up here as well. Jinx, one of the more accomplished players in OCE, but there's so many. I mean, Squeaks was up there last week too.
And then this is where we kind of delve into people who are still, not going to say on the up and coming, but people who are now leaving a legacy behind the 30th to 80 slots. We've got Earnings Check, who, hey, I want to know who you are, what your real names is, my friend. But 138 points down to 124. Victory Royale's down at this spot of the leaderboard as well. We're starting to see the differences in playstyle. We have people with placement heavy points such as Rax, who are, banking on those wins. Then we have those eliminations near that bottom 80 as well.
Yeah, you're talking about points, but look at this. This is 80th place, 70th to 80th place. And remember, 80th is that qualification range. We got players like Rel up here. We got players like Minkin and Alex, who placed 10th at one of the most intense DreamHack tournaments ever, one of the best solo tournaments of all time. And they're down here. 93 points for Alec. It's going to be a hard run going forward.
And that's OCE. Now we move over to Asia, where we have CRQ Jappy all the way at the top. Once again, a definitive lead. No tiebreakers in sight. 27 eliminations, 1 victory royale, 218 total points. Past him, Rylex in second. Look at the breakdown. This is where things get slightly closer. But then once again, we have people who don't eliminate as hard. Kentosh, right? Fourth there. That man screams consistency to me right now in 6th place. I'm excited to see where he goes in grand finals.
And a big thing we got to talk about, gentlemen, is, of course, that point, the points on the table for all of these regions. Keep in mind, it is cumulative points across both days will qualify for that grand finals, the top 80. So when we're looking at these point breakdowns, we know what 1 is. Now we know what down to top 30 is, which is 118 points. And we'll be hopping over here in just a moment to see what that final 80th point threshold is for all these other regions. These are kind of snapshots we need to be keeping in our mind as we kind of move throughout the day.
Yeah, absolutely. You saw Ruri there in 36th. I mean, there's so many good players in Asia in this region. But yeah, to talk about that, 88 points is 80th right now. Double that. You can kind of get a good picture of what that top 80 is going to be after tomorrow. And so that kind of sets it into play for not only Asia. I mean, 88 points might be very specific to that, but we might be seeing 180 to probably like 200 points as everybody starts to rise up on day 2.
Yeah, that was the first 10 games. Wait for the next. But now in Middle East at the top spot, Soriano, who everyone predicted to be up there. This region slightly different. A tiebreaker for 218th for first, but we saw why he won the ties. 3 total victory royales. After that, though, you got to quiet down, because from 3rd to 9th place to 8th, ASMR is the people who are on top, moving silently throughout the ranks. These guys are in numbers here in the top 10. Almost taking up 5-6 slots. We'll move over to the next page too and see even more. But Toby, Spy, Kai, Vagnar, all the way up there. 2NM7, who we know is so good as well, up in 11th, just shy of it. But look how close the points here are, Zeke.
My gosh. And again, this is like, these are the points we need to be keeping in the back of our minds, right? Especially as we move through all of these games, is how are we not only looking against other regions, but keeping these thresholds in mind. That's what we got to be looking at. So when you see a player and he's down somewhere in the 50-point range, especially later on in games, you got to think, all right, what does this guy have to do to push himself back up there?
And I was watching a little bit of Middle East yesterday and kind of got a picture of what these games are going to look like. We look at the top 80 threshold right now, but they were hard. They were stacked. In the end games, we were seeing 8 to 10 people in 9th zone, even in Middle East, where typically you don't necessarily see that as much. In this stage, we will. It will be like grand finals. We will see Storm Surge in the 5th zone, in the 7th. These are going to be difficult, and Middle East, when I was watching yesterday, proved that.
That's right, gentlemen. It's going to be an exciting time. Now, very quickly, we do want to touch on something, and that is the reboot round. It is actually going to be 10 games. I know in the past we've said 6. Made a slight error there, but it's okay. It's going to be over the course of 10 games. Now, gentlemen, we got to talk about things as we get ready to hop aboard the battle bus. Starting in EU, Shayo, who are you hoping to see at the top? Because we got to consider, too, there's players that did not qualify that are right now on the outside looking in, waiting for reboot round. So who do you think and who would you like to see at that top spot?
For me, I'm the people's man. I want to see Benji Fishy all the way up at the top. This man, internationally a superstar on regions, even if he's just playing in EU. He's, has no business in doing so well in a homeland, basically just taking things over by storm. I want to see him repeat what he did last week. I want to see him at the top.
I want to see that too, but when I look at the results from the Cash Cups this week, Benji didn't actually qualify for the finals of Monday, and then yesterday he had some issues off spawn. I don't think that's going to affect him, and when he did finally break through those issues, he started dominating and actually pushed himself up in the Cash Cup yesterday, but that might be an issue moving forward. The other guy, though, that I want to talk about is Mitro, because when we think about online tournaments, Zeke, you've casted a number of those summer skirmishes earlier on. Mitro is the king of them, and he did show up in week 1 of FNCS Invitational, so I think he might be here to play again.
That's right, and I think another thing we want to think about as well is who is in our games, right? Because we got to imagine now that it's condensed down to top 300.
Yes.
If I know I want to go to agency and I know you want to go to agency, we're in for a fight, and that is going to decidingly be a factor in all of these games.
100%. And Lecce is one of those players who goes to the agency and dominates from that. And he did have a week 1 performance where he did just that. So that's going to be a scary factor too.
I mean, there's more legacy left over as well. We have Savage too. So many cool things to see.
That's right, guys. Well, it is time. Let's take it into our first game of EU. Take it away, gentlemen.
And it all begins. This is going to be week 2, day number 1. And already we see big names taken out. Versu at Sweaty Sands. The king is down. Mongrel taken out in his first game.
That is huge. Remember, he's going to have to wait in the queue now because there's only 300 players, and Mongrel, who decidedly or tried to self-name himself as the king of EU, or king of Sweaty Sands, losing to Versa, who hasn't had the most strong performances going forward, but he did perform in a number of the week's Cash Cups in duos and in solos. And Mongrel did too. But Mongrel's performance in week 1 was kind of middling, I would say. He was around the middle of the pack in terms of the people who qualified, around 100th place. And I think that's something that Mongrel's going to have to fix, but that's not how you start things off, to lose off spawn in your first battle.
Yeah, and it's not just Mongrel. So many people who've had reputations in their mind of themselves are going to use this first game to try to get rid of them. In that process, though, we might see an opportunities where they just, delve right back and relapse, having a bad kind of circumstance happen to them in these box fights. But already we see the Vic up against Hardy, trying to make that not a circumstance, a situation, trying to end this fight fast, has the shield advantage on the box as well, but there's third parties looming. We know how these fights end up going if they aren't ended fast. Already, I think that's C4 that gets thrown from distance, and after that, some more shots coming in. The Vic is now on the run.
That he is, and with no builds because of the early game engagement, I think these guys are both going to get wiped. Yes, he has his opponent low, but Downs in the bush. Hold on, Vic actually beamed him for a second there and forced him to get off the trail. He's going to continue the pressure through, and there's a whited floor that makes it so Vic can actually shoot that. But still no materials to be able to try to take that wall, and look how many third parties are coming in.
A war on multiple fronts for Vic, and he's just trying to get as many points as possible here. Takes out Hardy, then goes for the person who was trying to get in, a cheeky shot, hopefully a last hit on that player who was in the box, but now he's trapped on the back wall. Does build up a few layers. The Vic out of mats has to operate from low ground. I think got his elimination stolen as well previously. In terms of the loot,
which is no siphon, which is no materials. I'm not even thinking about the HP. The materials is what he needs to survive the onslaught, because Anas, who has claimed the house of the agency loot, is right here. Downs has gotten out, and Anas just has to fight the Vic with no materials. That's an easy cleanup, and I think what we're seeing here is people not being ready for how spread out players are going to be on the map in these games, because top 300, again, these are going to be customs-like games. It might be a little different because you don't know who's going to be in your game every single time, but people are going to be spread out wide.
I mean, I would say that's almost harder than customs, because you can kind of, understand who's going to what drop and make your path in a sense that can hopefully avoid as many people as possible and get you to the end game. With the randomness of these lobbies, it's going to be that much more difficult for you to try to get that game plan down. Once you're off that battle bus, you'll have a different circumstance every single time. Now we see Tads trying to make a better circumstance of his position. But once again, immediate defensive capabilities from his opponent, building up multiple layers. We're seeing these box fights, things that should be slightly low-key, waiting for these things to happen slowly, just explode straight with builds up to the sky. No one can stay hidden. This means third parties will come in even more so, but if Taz has the opportunity to move up and get this fight done, he does. The SMG beam is there, and he takes out Bryzy.
And he wins Salty Springs in the end of all of it, which means he should have a good amount of loot moving forward. And what I'm seeing, his inventory is so far so good, but something that you've got to be careful of when landing at Salty Springs is the influence that the agency has on you. I'm curious now, as we do see the overview, I don't see any player in the distance, maybe one at the agency. We'll see if he decides to push through. This was a player who was landing at the agency previously, Baffo. He's fighting at the yacht with Red Rush, who we've seen, if you've been watching the Cash Cups, been contesting the yacht, been contesting against Mr. Savage here, and doing pretty decently. One of the reasons why Mr. Savage did not perform in the Cash Cup was Red Rush at the yacht. But Zone coming in, this looks to be one of those dreaded Mythic POI spot fights that happens time and time again.
Never ending game to game. And when you're inside these games too, they take so long to get delved and get done because we know both players will have such good loot and shields to boot as well. But right now, Red Rush taking the first shot of damage. It's not too big. After that, responding back with shots of his own, trying to find a way to get in, but he's taking way too much on the trade. He gets taken out. It's going to be Bafo who wins out on that one.
So from the agency to the yacht, he seems to be a dominant presence at Mythic POIs, and you just have the boat if he needs to rotate out very easily, but you've got to be careful because there will be players like Refsguard, like Scram, who land at Steamy Stacks and will take the shots at you as much as possible, not only for Storm Surge tags, but also just to see and harass on the side of the map. Looking at Aqua, playing things safe. He's still on the island that he lands at a long time before. He's going to upgrade a weapon. And it is going to be an epic pump shotgun there. And that is a thing to be scared of if you're at the rest of this server. And looking at the loot, I can't believe he's gotten this much.
I mean, the pump shotgun's something they can't see at all times. The other thing to be scared of is his axe baller. My man has that axe of champions, the trio's winner of the entire European region, and he still buys the water side, doesn't have teammates, but this is something that you don't want to see in a box.
But he might have the axe. He does not have the results yet in FNCS Invitational. Another middling performance. Somebody I had probably put on the same scale of week one performances as Mongrel, but does that actually mean anything? Because time and time again, when we get to these grand finals, he's performing. He won trios. He did so well in duos. Unbelievable with Stompy. And now it's time to show up as a solo player, and we know he can perform in these tournaments.
I mean, maybe that's just because of how different solos are and how his game style might not be able to fit in. We know that Aqua is just all about that endgame high ground. Get there as fast as possible, stay low-key, and then win.
And that was the thing. In duos, he was getting the Mythic Grotto spot every single time. Brutus's minigun was such a key factor to actually go on for Aqua. And in solos, he clearly does not have it. Clearly does not want to take the risk of fighting at the Grotto. Because as a solo, it is a difficult spot to fight. It is a difficult spot to contest with because of how many people come in.
And then here's the news story that we get to see play out from opens all the way to now in week 2. Coolest Carrot, you were talking about the agency. This man has taken the hardest spot from a position of clout that's non-existent to build up his name and his brand from scratch here in the FNCS Solos Invitational.
And I'm seeing a couple things in the feed after we touch on Coolest Carrot for a bit. CRR just took out a player. And then Anas took out Lestream Skite, one of the best. I mean, I talk about Mitro's performances in online solo tournaments. We got to think back to Skite's dominant Winter Royale run in 2018. But since then, did qualify for World Cup in both solos and duos, but hasn't quite been up there. Losing to Anas, probably the second elim for Anas now.
And then these are kind of the solo lull moments you'll see on one side of the map, the loot still going on, but with how big the lobby is, you'll see fights breaking out in spots you wouldn't expect. Right now, Fury Legendary up in the bush. I think this man will be the operating factor of this fight because he's not in it yet. And we've seen so far, every third party that comes through is usually the winner of the fight. He's letting this one ramp all the way up. Moon will be the person we're tuning in with, going for shots, being on the forefront of these wall takes of damage as well because he's taking 40, just trying to get aggressive here. He has a little bit of loot, but it's not the things that you need for endgame. Suddenly, in a 50-50 position, has to escape, gets it done, and now Fury makes the decision to actually move away towards agency and towards zone, where we know that Coolest Carrot will have the utmost advantage as well.
You got to be careful if you're Moon, and he does. He backs up in the box time and time again as Froggy tries to jump in, and That's not the play style you're going to want to have against players who are so good at avoiding, so good at getting away from situations, and also realizing that you're about to jump in their box.
Yeah, and this is someone who jumped in the most aggressive player's box on the other side of things from downs. It's Versa. We saw take out Mongrel in that early game, now stuck between a bridge where we have an entire audience looking at this fight go down a river, and an aggressive player on his box with white HP. It's not going to be possible for him to survive much longer. He ultimately gets taken out, I believe, by downs here in a few more swings of the wall. He's looking for that big shot, misses off the first chance, then gets it. It's downs who has his entire area now to play with. Both players' builds for his base.
You talk about the lulls as this first zone closes, as we move into second. This is where it's going to be a little bit more quiet. CRR might make things a little explosive for us, as he has 2 eliminations and he might be hunting for another one. But this is the type of place where people are going to start to figure out where they can position for this end game that's looming, for this end game that will be difficult in terms of the spread, the congestion, how difficult to rotate with 40 other players right next to you, right on top of you. And you just got to prepare in these positions. You're looking for a good spot. You're looking for extra mobility. And you're looking not to spend your resources, 150 max resources for CRR right now, but also the health. Don't want to use any of that. One of the best players at doing that is just you miss any opportunity for people to get in your face and take tags from positions of strength. CRR avoiding really well so far.
Now he's in kind of that maze situation of that mid game where so many people are already ahead of you. In this lobby of the top 300, it'll be big names as well. Verox, Snazy looking to get bases ahead of the competition first. Now we tune back in with Mitro, the other half to CRR all the way at the Shark for duos, now by himself in a much better position, a big base to get tags from. Although Stormster is not going to be a big thing now, hasn't been the biggest thing for a while for these players. As soon as that half and half zone comes in, the 5th, we'll be seeing those 50 players trying to survive. Right now, 66, no one faltering. Mitro can be in a spot to get as many tags as possible.
And he's going to try to do that, but I believe also getting knocked down. He tried to build off of what looks like a fight that he had earlier. He's got one elim and builds back up in metal, but oh my goodness, he's 16 HP. He's getting focused by a lot of people. You don't usually see this up on height getting dominated, but it's Aqua who takes advantage and he drops right in. But even footing now as he trades a little bit of damage. Mitro does have the floppers, but so does Aqua.
If you wanted to see 2 Titans fight in the sky, usually it's at end game on the brink of zone. Right now, we'll see how far and how fast this fight goes. So far, Aqua has reclaimed this entire base, is in possibly the best position on the map, and this is his win condition. This is his game plan to stay on top.
Absolutely. You've seen it. How does he take height so many times? It's because he tries to go for stuff like this. And something interesting here, yes, he might have the Axe of Champions, but Mitro is a champion of his own rights. But also, Mitro now knows, because of the swing noise of that Axe of Champions, who he's, or a possibility of who he's up against. It could be all of the different champions. It could be, obviously, so many different people. Andalex being one of them in the distance there, who also probably has that. Nate might be in this lobby too.
And you'll see the diverse cast of players we have on that mini-map, all the different colored arrows waiting to get in, but are side by side on so many different boxes. We know who's controlling all these players in that big guard tower at the center of zone. It'll be Aqua who sees Ermoon and many more move in from the south side in towards Pleasant Park. And from here, I mean, we've seen it in Europe so many times. Is this going to be another possibility of a water zone happening over at the northwestern side? Or are we going to stick to land here, Bala?
I don't know. I think we're going to be sticking to land slightly south of Pleasant Park in between Salty Springs. Zermoon picks one up from range. I think we will be. There might be the river in between, but for the most part, I think we're safe. And I think everybody's breathing a sigh of relief as that 4th zone did reveal. He's a champion, but right now he's sitting in a bush and maybe showing off that all strategies are valid no matter what. This is going to resonate with a lot of different people. But look at that trigger discipline for Andalex. And oh my goodness, this is a really, really good player. Anas runs into the bush and he takes him out. He makes it work. Andalex might be a champion, but he uses all techniques available to him at the same time.
I mean, hey, if you want to do the most basic strat in the game, if you want to get Season 1 with it, it's a nice move to make because sometimes it's an old saying, the best players are used to what the other god-tier players are doing. They never expect that basic strat to come right through, especially from one of the gods of the region. Now Andalex will move in off the back of the zone, slightly late. Will be hit up by multiple people, but finds his own base as we wait for the next zone to pop in that fourth one.
He did find a position a little bit elevated above, but he actually doesn't even want to take that because of how he wants to move in. He wants to make sure that he's safe before going in on a spot where a lot of different people could see, but also give himself a pocket to do things like look for the heavy snipe. It's a shot that opts not to as the player in the distance getting sprayed from multiple different angles, and there he does. Finally decides, is it going to hit? No.
Ooh, but he finds the tags afterward. Fanta going down, who we saw was also so monumental in so many moments in week 1. Now in the first game, we'll have a faster queue to wait for the next game to start up. Tohaj all the way on the right side as well. Mage right beside Andalex 2. I believe Mage as well had somewhat of a middling performance. Didn't look too hot coming out of week 1. And might have that same performance repeat if he has to deal with Andalex breathing down his neck on this rotation to zone.
And a big name, Aqua, did get taken out by Matsu, who, remember, was right on top of Mitro, so that fight might be still ongoing. And as the scores develop, don't forget these players very, very close to a number of placement thresholds as they approach top 50. That's going to be the next one for an extra point. But, oh, Andalex with the beautiful shot there. Finds a gap where Zeno is sticking, and he makes it work. So it might be quiet, but Andalex finding all sorts of opportunities.
Mage is just watching all of this happen, and Andalex has no clue, or even just might know that he's there. Could this also be the reversal strategy? Because we saw Andalex start all this off in a bush, waiting for his opponent to make as many moves as possible before getting taken out. Mage might be the same way. Ermoon, though, completely different game, has to move forward. I believe maybe Storm Surge also being a thing, he's above it, actually. 355 total damage. So we'll see exactly how he moves all the way through a river he has to walk by many different challenges.
And guys, audio, we are aware of the issue and we'll be working on it as we move forward. Understand that it's still slightly off sync with the screen. But we are aware. And as we go into the next portion of this game, fourth zone, this is one of the most difficult rotates as all the congestion kind of has to go in an open space. It doesn't go to the edge. You have to kind of break line of sight. You can't rely on old builds all the time as you can maybe in the fifth zone that's coming up. And Nate is in this game, by the way, and Alexa's counterparts, the reigning FNCS champion from duos. And he finds one. Actually finds Baffo, who we saw at the very beginning of this game, take out Red Rush. And he has the yacht loot. So, interestingly enough, that could be a free launch pad for Andalex. Or not Andalex, sorry, Nate.
I mean, not anymore. Lukey instantly takes him out. Possible box fight that he desperately had to try to take. Remember, Storm Surge was active there, and we can see what it makes the best players do. But think about it right now. We have Ermoon, Mage, Andalex. So many top players left in this lobby. This is just game 1, and these are not customs, Ball.
Not customs. And we're going to continue to see this throughout the entire day. About 3 games all concurrently going on at the same time. We might be hopping around into various different ones so we can get an eye and vision on how everybody's performing throughout the day. But man, oh man, we have so many. We're going to actually have to take a break and back out of that one really quickly. Zeke, so far, so good for Andalex. So far, so good for Mitro. So many different players in that one. That's going to be interesting to continue and follow up.
Yeah, and obviously we're seeing a lot of these big names. My curiosity actually would be on the flip side, because the first elimination we saw in that game was Mongrel. That's how tight this competition right now is. So a lot of these big names that we're so used to seeing, they're still going to have to, like, face off against all of these other FNCS finalists, players that have pushed through in the top 300. I mean, how do you guys feel about the dynamic right now? You know, we're seeing people even like Skype being eliminated. Like, this is ridiculous.
I mean, it's breathing room for all these players, because before, when you're battling for the top 300, yeah, losing out 1 or 2 games doesn't mean too much, but for Mongrel, for Skype, for people like Nate, who survived to this point in the game, but still got taken out before that top 10, it's less room to breathe. We have to hit for top 80 in 10 games and 20 total on the weekend. It'll be so difficult when you lose out on a game, especially off spawn like Mongrel did.
And I think this is going to be kind of the first taste of something like this at all, because last weekend it was 600 players, 6 games going on at the same time, but I think for the most part they weren't running into repeats too much. I mean, you saw Benji Fishy at Retail Row so many different times, and he didn't really have an issue because it was kind of random different players every single time that he could either, you know, fight or disengage with depending on how they were playing. I think this time you're going to have repeats where people are going to fight for that spawn, fight for the, I guess, claim when it comes to the grand final. So we might see a lot of that from Mongrel.
Do you guys think they should stay the course? Like, if they've got that POI, they've got that track, it's just ready to go? Or
I mean, like,
actually,
the one
sorry
thing
about that,
right
guys. I actually have to cut you off, Shy. What I'm hearing is we're actually going to go to a 10-minute break to resolve whatever issue is going on with these games. So we'll be right back with more of the FNCS Invitational. Don't forget to stay tuned, Fortnite fam. We love you guys. We'll see you after this break. Alrighty, Fortnite fam, we're back, and we're getting ready to hop into another game. Sorry about that, just a few technical difficulties on our end, so we do apologize. We're getting ready to hop back in. Alright, gentlemen, we've had some time to kind of talk off-screen about things we're looking forward to seeing. Now let's get back in the headspace of these games. We've already seen big names eliminated off spawn, players eliminated early on in the games. So because we unfortunately did miss that game, we do have confirmation that Hen did win that game in first place with 6 eliminations. And Bala, Mitro, who you called out in mid-game, came in second place with 6 eliminations in his first game. That's a pretty good start.
And the W key lord of Mitro continues forward. He was on top of a number of really, really good players in that one, and he seems to have made it from that second zone high ground position all the way towards the end.
You're right. Well, let's see how this next game goes as we hop into the next game of the FNCS Invitational. Take it away, gentlemen.
Let's see exactly how things are changing up for game 2. The Downs over at Holly Hedges, a POI we don't get to see too much action from the beginning of the game, but things tend to switch up. People tend to clash when it's this random 300 players playing time and time again at these drop spots. Sometimes the secondary one is Holly Hedges for a lot of these top European players, but there is no plan B available for Zeno, who gets taken out by Downs. Now Fanta will use that plan A, plan aggression, to get back with the C4 onto Downs. Does not find what he's looking for. Gets a few trades in. Both players now superbly low HP. Or at least Fanta is. Downs is full on white health, lost all his shields. He's looking to finish this fight. Fanta looking to just stay alive.
And we saw both of these players go down in mid-game fights throughout the last one. Downs all the way over towards Salty Spring. Fanta got sniped, or not necessarily sniped, but taken out by Andalex at a long range, and he is going to finish things off. So there he goes. He wins Holly Hedges this time. And a little bit of a switch in his drop spot as we're in the beginning of the game. Last time he was in between over towards Sweaty Sands at one of those lake houses.
And this is going to be still one of the earlier moments for a lot of these players. If they're still testing out spots, looking to get beefed up in attitude and confidence. We saw Downs there taking the L onto Fanta. You might have still been spectating. Here's a reminder of that format, though, that these guys are playing. Right now, we're getting close to placement already. When you're past it, closer to the end of the game, in the top 10, you get a lot divvied out. If you win the game overall, you'll have those 33 points. And we've extended it all the way to 75th place now. You get 1 point when you hit that threshold. After that, to 50th. Then just think about it in your mind. Every 10 places, you get a certain amount of points all the way to that top 10 spot.
Kind of makes things a little more consistent. The 300 IQ play from Flick. He dives back up the mountain into the bush, and he even looks in that direction, gets a few beams to start things off. Flick is going to have a really good advantage. He's even trying to phase in the box. He gets in, breaks through, and then wins the SMG trade. Well done, Flick. As he does his best impression of a diving in the box type of play style, but also mixes it up with the bush. But Trulex is lurking out at Craggy.
Once again, this is the week of bush plays that get responded to by third parties. Players, although very smart, still can't end fights fast enough, at least. They try to. Now Trulex will be there to have a say in things. Once again, not going to play too careful. As a result, though, get traded a little bit of damage back. Blocked off by a ramp. Boxed in already. Trulex looking like he's on the back end of this fight, but remember who started it. It was him. He's still all the way up on height. Has that grappler. Looks like Mats might be running out for his opponent down here in the box, looking to find anything in terms of a shot back, but Trulex is controlling the fight, has the walls. Edit's not coming through just yet. Angle's still there. He's playing this in an excellent fashion.
That he is. He even gets to stare over as the SMG spray came in from Flick. And he does force him all the way down to low ground. That might be a sign that there's low materials here for Flick, and I think that is the case as more SMG spray coming in, and the piece control is easy for Trulex, but still not finding a gap as Flick found a little stair to stay up on top of, and he wins the fight. Flick showing off, even with a low material situation.
I mean, that was every single position you could be in a fight for both players shown off. At the end, the person who was supposed to lose, it was supposed to be Flick, back against the wall, just used his movement more so than anything else to dodge shots, land them, and get that win.
And to note, Trulex actually placed second in the most recent FNCS in the grand finals with his teammate Queasy. Flick, on the other hand, just barely qualified for this week's tournament. In 239th, he was one of the invited players based off of very consistent results throughout all the FNCSs and other tournaments. But he wins it out. And he is such a strong solo player. We've casted a bunch of different things where this man is a clutch king, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, always in solos. Clutches are there. But my God, another pattern we're seeing, this time from Stompy. Big, heavy sniper plays, decisive ones as well. A launch pad that reaches the loot, too. This is crazy. People are landing the most insane shots right now in every single game. It's 300 of the best players playing to their absolute potential.
And Stompy looks like the player out of the Stompy and Aqua duo who wanted the minigun more than, as he still stays at the grotto. And we mentioned how Hen did win that first game that we were watching as we had to hop out of it. And because of that, he sits at 57 points, possibly ahead of the pack, but nice stair replace and wall replace over his opponent to make that an easy pickup with the legendary pump. There's actually two involved on the edge of the map. This isn't something that you're used to seeing, but man, is that a lot of loot.
And there's a lot of different people who are getting inspired as well. We saw Hen with that Iachi 32 name, obviously inspired by Kiriachi, who we saw was so dominant both in squads, duos before, and now in his hometown solos as well. Here's Vidil, though, who I believe you had questions about Bala. Where did this man come from? Who is he? What's his play style? We're finally seeing that unfold today in the FNCS Invitational.
Hey, he had fourth place in day one of the other one, and he's actually being so careful, so quiet. I don't think that player knew that he was there until the last second. And when he pays for it, he was trying to reload his shotgun, but not enough time as Vidil is right there. Still looking for more, though. And you're right, I did have questions. Where'd this guy come from? Because a fourth place finish on day one of last week's fight, and now he's up against 4ZR, another super strong player. And he does the same thing, gets in the box, but 4ZR backs up and almost actually gets a big tag on him. This is looking like a scary fight.
Trying to end, but there's a little bit of a stalemate now. Those peanut butter edits, what a lot of people call them, the triangles, look like half sandwiches, are going to be used to delay that fight, make those POVs harder to see and get. If you're trying to be the forefront, the person who's getting into the box, it'll make it that much more riskier for you, but no matter what edits you try to choose, if Vidil's there, he's going to end that fight if he wants to. Gets that gun out, no one on this side of the zone. He has a lot of time to think about what to do next.
46 points for Vidil, who, again, was somewhat of an unknown quantity for me. I looked up his placements. He did actually play in FNCS duos, but since then, really nothing. They only made heats in duos, not grand finals. But basically that's it, except for a couple of cash cups. He placed fourth in one recently, but not all the way up there. And Lights, another open qualified player, takes a nice big shot on the Pablo to make his score 10, but he's got to move forward from here. This is not just an open qualified player, because he does have some competitive chops. We've seen him all the way back in different skirmishes, and I believe possibly one of those couple of invites as well. So, where does he go from here? He already started things off. A third party takes one, but can he get the second?
He's trying forward. A big shot comes right through, looks for the second spray to follow up. No, it's the shotgun that finishes out Fly Pie. He's out of there, and now the zone comes in. He has to keep moving forward, looking to see what's going to be coming up. No, the zone's actually locked. We're waiting to see what the next moves are for so many people. There are still people in Storm, though, trying to move forward and in. The River's there to help them through. But 2 eliminations, 14 points. We see the differences now in players, some at 46, like Vidil, but some who missed out on that first game, looking to find results in the second.
Oh, my goodness. Mitro in this game, too, 59 points. Remember, he did place second in that first game that we watched with 6 eliminations. That's why his point total is so up there. And he has the shark loot with 2 eliminations, but still also looking for potentially the agency loot too. That would be insane.
Why does he always have to pick the spots that have the biggest fights, that have the hardest times to come through with? We know that's been, I'm not going to say the weakness, but the stopping point for Mitro so many times in these tournaments. Right now it's free. I mean, what's after that?
Is it the stopping point, or is that how he gets on a roll? Is that how he feels the wave and feels the momentum going forward? Because he's always been somebody who plays aggressive. Speaking of aggressive, Kiriachi and Slurpee swaps against Kaiser, 2 players who perform so well tournament after tournament. Kaiser specifically has had a first week of note, Kiriachi less so. And this fight that happens in Slurpee typically goes so long, but Kiriachi does not care who he's up against. He always takes
Shots and flares.
Just trying to find a gap, just trying to find a little bit of some feet showing, because he possibly has some information, and then taking even another dive onto a player trying to box up. Marcus looking for any of those holes to find himself a free elimination or a free refresh. Hen is the player directly on top of him. We might be setting up for another, basically, 1v1 scenario at the end of the game between Hen and Mitro. And another name in the background there was Deciptos, a French player who I think has been turning my head a lot recently, because he played 5th in the other one. There's a pickup for Marcus C. So the persistence on looking for these opportunities and going for them does work out, but this is the thing. If you get too aggressive, if you show yourself too much, you might get sprayed down, especially when there's loot to be involved in it. But he still gains from that engagement.
And no one ever talks about the investment of those sprays as well. You have to remember all these people on the aggressive have an ammo count that they have to keep in mind and use all throughout the end game. Maybe spraying right now isn't the best thing to do right now. Stompy won't have to actually have that option available to him at all. He's going to be operating off that tactical shotgun, but at the same time, is at the forefront of all these different sprays all the way around him. You'll notice, though, at the fort zone, people don't actually invest in those big 200 bullet sprays. People don't get focused too hard. It's more so tests, looking for tags, waiting for white HP. Right now, Stompy gets knocked down to that level. Huddy's here as well at 100, looking for anything in this box, any type of piece control. Has the first wall. Will he make the edit? Yes, but it's another one that gets taken beside him now in a 50-50 almost. The SMG spray is not there. Mats are, though. Is this a fight you want to finish out, or can you move away after being disinvested?
And man, are people so aggressive? Zeke asked the question whether the fort points is going to work, and Huddy does take out Stompy, I believe, on the backside of that. Healing in his box. Huddy had one of the walls, and that's an easy pickup. That's unbelievable from Huddy, and that was huge because there was a heavy snipe on the ground. There was clearly a big pot trying to be taken. So now he puts himself in good regards, but where's the next zone? Where is it going to be? How does he have to make this rotation forward? It is going to continue to go across that mountain range. And when you're across this way, you just got to hope that you're not on that north side, because that's across the ravine entirely. RPG heavy snipe combo, possible for Huddy. He's going to reload him. That didn't connect. As the player now tries to move forward, and we kind of hear a little bit there of what happens for Huddy.
Yeah, still have some of those audio issues going on. Don't worry. Still trying to find a way to fix them over in the back end. Huddy, though, has one of the biggest and most deadly combinations of weapons. The heavy sniper, the RPG, close and mid-range too, a tactical shotgun of the purple variety with a purple burst AR as well. He can do whatever he wants for the next few zones without that much of punishment available. But he has to act fast to get to this loot, because there are still 53 different players alive. It's gone already.
And it's a solo game, but Huddy has the combination of the heavy snipe RPG that we've seen in different scenarios and different metas. This is a throwback all the way to last year, where we saw Mr. Savage use that hand cannon in the RPG to great effect. Huddy, by himself with 2 weapons that take forever to reload. Now looking at a different side of the map. A lot of different people up top. I think Mitro might still have a really, really good position based on where we saw him earlier. I saw Kiriachi actually right next to Safi. And you talked about a little bit of representation, the friend groups and the different things to kind of show respect. I think this is the first week we're seeing the Yachi 32s come out, because he's one of the people in Eastern Europe who really is kind of a pioneer in a sense, showing a lot of people that, hey, no matter where you're from, you can perform. It is a global game, and yes, Mitro is alive, and he takes out Amplify.
And now this zone pulls all the way down south, different mountains, a ravine all the way in the middle as well. This is going to be a tough rotation for anyone, especially Viper, who's caught all the way at the back looking for any type of help. With the community launchpad placed down, no, it'll be, I think, maybe a natural rotation, maybe a launchpad of his own. But oh wait, slithering in the shadows as we watch Slicks try to move in, another player from the Become Legend squadron. Everyone else has already made their bases, but he has to catch up now. Has those medkits and the minis to use instead of the materials. One cool thing you can do is actually bait out damage, take it like he did right now. It looks bad, but he saves materials on the rotation. He can mini up, and once he's finally in, once people start launch padding and groundwork, footwork is easier to do, he can then use that medkit to heal up, be in a position, and siphon back that other 50 shield with a big elimination, impact frag if he finds one. And anyone in wood, there it is. Stormy Right is the one to go down. The grappler or the harpoon gets all those materials back into his inventory, and a big buff for, his overall loadout. The heavy sniper now is going to be the operating weapon. The harpoon overall dropped. His loadout now locked in. He's looking to box dive on possibly Kylix up top.
He has that opportunity. We'll see if he continues to hold that. Hen still up. Moki still up. Hen at the top of the leaderboards after his first game performance. And we are going to tune in with him as he tries to look for positions, tries to look for who is a threat up on high ground, who is that player up on above. He has the epic burst that he can make work to take that player out in quick fashion and maybe take it all, but also the floppers is something that he's definitely going to be thinking about, because he can make zone plays in the future. And had a kind of breakout performance throughout the DreamHack Opens, but didn't quite make it all the way through the finals. Compared to some other people in this game, Moki, who placed in the top 50 of the DreamHack Grand Finals. Something very impressive. And we are going to see a couple of different people launch pad through. There's one, but they can't just find it, and Hand is going to get that elimination thanks to the zone onto Clover, who tried to go for it, and he has found so many launch pads. That was 3 or 4 right there.
And now he's going to try to chain all of them together, but it's dangerous. Each time he lands in a quick pump shot right before he moves on a player trying to get some loot out. That was fast decision-making by Hen. Now finally in a box waiting for the rest of the match to start over. He's going to see how he handles these fast moves trapped under a cone. Not going to pressure him that much whatsoever. His brick base finally built up. Not quite in zone just yet, but there's so many people on every single layer. His pump finding each and every single one of them like a magnet attracted to every single head right now. He is not missing shots. So many materials still left over as well. 1,000 damage above, and he finds another that's on the crack. And he doesn't. His mental's so strong. He's still moving forward, layer to layer, box to box.
And he might be looking for the shots not missing, but also what's missing from him is anything. Nobody has targeted him a single time because of the great layer control and great selection on position. Meanwhile, Hoodie down to 6 HP, possibly a couple of zone ticks, but also 50 HP. The Siphon possibly going to come in low materials, and he makes it work on a big Kiriachi.
It's the OG who gets taken out from the server. Now only the fanboys are left to see if they can do exactly what the King does time after time. Huddy will look to stop all of them, though. That harpoon trying to make waves into this box, but doesn't actually connect with any builds that are that important to drop people down. Now with 5 eliminations, not too many mats. He has to dive in once again, almost successful. Blocked an RPG. dropping him down. He gets taken out by Raj, and now Raj will start to move over. Scaria all the way up top. Kylix finally drops down. Slicks quickly behind him. Who's all the way up on ultimate height, though? This entire map is moving towards more of a supernatural low ground situation, and everyone on this mountain has to drop fast.